In this tutorial, we're going over how to customize your utilities keys. When I set up the default keys for all the utilities, I tried to make it so that I wouldn't accidentally override any of the built-in functionality of Excel. And in so doing, that's how I ended up with these long key commands, like this holding down Control Shift Alt. You'll see that is pretty prevalent throughout. And the reason for that is, since it's such a pain, Microsoft never binded anything to that setup. So you very rarely, I don't think you will find anything where they've set up Control Shift Alt and a key to be anything. That's why I've used it. But if you decide that you want some of these utilities to be simpler, you can change that. And the way you would do it is you would go to Add-ins, Utilities, and hit Custom Settings, or you can hit Control Shift Alt F1 and that'll do the same thing. That pops up your Customizations menu. And in there, we're going to hit Keys. And this is letting you know that if you want to change the keys, you have to know how to use the codes from Application On Key function. And it's telling you how you can Google search that. And I'll show you that in a minute. Hit OK. And you're met with a screen that has a list of every single utility within Utilities, what the key it's currently set to is. This is not just the default, even though these are set up to default. This is going to actually show you whatever it's currently set to. So if you've changed it, it'll show you what you currently have. And then a button to save once you're done, which is this blue one. So as you can see right there, all of these are filled in with pretty much what looks like gibberish. And you can see right off the bat that custom key slash cycles is this little gibberish command, which actually equates to this string right here. We'll go into that in a little bit more depth in a minute. Before we go much further on, let's take a look at how you would look at how the default key bindings are set. You can see a complete list of the default key bindings by going to Add-ins, Utilities, Show Utilities menu. On the Intro Setup tab, click Default Key List, and then click this button to export to a new workbook all of the default keys. You'll see a new workbook popped out, and it has all the different utilities. This is a friendly name for that utility. This is the macro name that's used by the code, so this is actually of no use to the user, so I'm just going to hide that for now. Here you have that gibberish looking keyboard command, which is what you need if you want to change the keys. Here I went through and typed in by hand what these commands actually equate to. So you can see like this one equates to Control plus Tab. And then here lets you know on the Utilities menu where you can find a description of this utility. So these four are showing up on the Intro Setup tab. So let me just pop up the menu so you can see this alongside it. So I have the menu up. You can see these four actually show up on this Intro Setup tab. Next I have Author's Favorite tab, which all of these show up on. Then you have Formatting View below, and those will all be on this tab, and so forth. So in here you have a list of all the different utilities, and these will probably grow with time. And since they'll grow with time, you're going to at some point probably update your version. Just so you know, when you update your version, if you've changed your default keys, I've set it up so that those should stay behind, so you don't have to keep changing them every time you update versions. It'll remember how you had them set the last time. So let's quickly look into how would you figure out what these do without having to just look at this and try to guess. You can always go to the internet and just Google search Application On Key, and chances are the first thing that pops up is the one you want. So this Application On Key method from Microsoft, and it says Excel, that's the one we want. And then if you go through and read this page, it'll describe to you in detail how those codes work. I'm just going to give you a quick sample of how it works. I'm just going to steal this box for illustration purposes. Take that to my key list, paste it off to the side. try to make this a little cleaner. So what we have here is I just pasted this box in from Microsoft's website, and it pretty much just gives you a quick description of what these characters are. So this plus, caret, and %, those equate to adding a shift, control, and alt. So let's take a look at how that works in one of these. If we go down here and look at this utility, you can see that I say I have it set up for a keyboard shortcut of Control Shift Alt P. And then if you look at the code, it's caret, which is control, plus, which is shift, %, which is alt, and then P, which is P. So that's how I came up with the user-friendly description of it. But this is the code that's typed in on the menu. So let's go ahead and look at we'll look at this Create 2007 pivot on the custom settings. If I open that menu again, here it is, create a 2007 pivot, and you can see that it's using the code and not this user-friendly name. So let's take a look at how I would shift one of those codes, and I'm just going to pick a simple one. Let's change this cycle color one. Cycle cell color. So the way this one works is by holding down this key command, which is Control Shift Alt Delete, it'll change the cell color of any cell I have highlighted every time I tap delete while holding down Control Shift Alt. Now let's say you like that utility, but you hate having to hit those 3 keys and then tap delete. Let's say you just want to be able to hit Control Delete. To make that happen, I would want to change it to caret and then delete. Delete requires you to put delete in this specific setup here, and that's actually referenced on the Google page. When you want to reference these special keys, it tells you the code for those special keys. So like caps lock is that, and you can see delete is this thing. So to make it Control Delete, I would go to Add-ins, Utilities, Custom Settings, Keys, and then I want to change cycle cell color. So I'm just going to scroll down until I find that, and there it is, cycle cell color. You can see I have it bound at Control Shift Alt Delete. I'm going to get rid of Shift and Alt, make it just Control Delete, click Save, hit OK. And now you can't see this, but now I'm just holding down Control, tapping Delete, and now it's bound to those keys. And then Control Shift Alt Delete actually doesn't do anything because it's not set up to do anything without that. And if you were to go back in, you would see that it's still set to Control Delete on that table. So if you ever want to see what you currently have your keys set to, you can always pull this table up and it'll tell you what you're currently set to. So scroll down to cycle cell color, it's still set to the new setting. If for any reason you've messed this all up and you want to go back to defaults, that's very easy. Come in here, go to the bottom row, and there's this empty box, and all it's telling you to do is type in the word seriously without quotes into the box. So seriously, just want you to be sure if you're going to do this, type in seriously, click the save button, hit OK, and now it should have put it back to the original default, and it would have done this for all the keys, not just that one. So I'm going back in to take another look at it, cycling down to cycle cell color, and you can see it's set up to the original default key selection, which is what we had here. One quick thing I want to point out to you, for those of you that aren't going to bother ever reading in detail how this works, is you're free to combine these 3 things, any one or none of them with a key, but you can't combine 2 regular keys with each other. For instance, I can say Shift Q and that's fine, but I can't say I want to be able to hold down Q and then hit P. Like that will never work. You could say I want to hold down Shift P, Shift Alt P, Shift Alt Control P, or just P, but I can't say I want to put down PI or PQ or PT. Like those things can only mix with one of these 3, one or all or none of these 3 keys. They can't mix with each other.